Good day, good day. Hello, my name is LJ Finney. I am the CEO of N18. We provide leadership development through executive retreats, team building, group coaching, and peer coaching. And honestly, our focus is helping teams perform better together, helping teams think about how to become leaders and how to step into their leadership, and really looking at overall performance and execution of your mission, your vision, and like what you're actually doing. So we have been talking for our 18 minutes of leadership, and I promise to try to keep it to 18 minutes. We have been focusing on team building activities. If you are the CEO of an organization or a team leader or a middle manager, how are you thinking about team and professional development? Beyond sending someone to a course where they sit there and they absorb all the information, maybe they're listening, maybe they're not, maybe they're experiencing something new and connecting with new people. How do you ensure that the behavior when they return to the office is actually changed or has changed at all? Or they've at least thought about, how do I want to return to the office, or how do I want to improve? So I take a class on communication skills. Am I actually using any of the things I learned during the class? I do not love learning management systems because we are overstimulated by information. So that is why we talk about team building as a practical application, checking in with people. That is the beauty of peer and group coaching. You're allowed to share and be fully transparent to the best of your ability, depending on how trusting your environment is. But being in a peer group allows you to share information with someone that may be experiencing the same thing, so that you know that you're not alone on this journey, your journey as a leader, your journey in a team, and also removing the authority figures in those moments to help facilitate more authentic and organic conversation. That is the beauty of having a facilitator that is certified like myself. So moving on, we're going to talk specifically about the 18 minutes of leadership and why team building and what you can do. So what you can do as a leader, we've given you some practices last week. And this week, I want to speak more about storytelling, because if you do these events and you host them, you have to go back and be able to tell the story of why it mattered and why spending that money or spending that time was an investment, and what you're looking to see change over time. There is no quick fix for a broken or fractured team. There is no quick antidote for building trust within a team. And there is no quick way to make people connect in a way that will allow them to perform better in the office. However, there are tools that can help improve the situations. I love golf because 4 hours is a long enough time to know if you have a barrier to working with someone, if you have a challenge of something that's frustrating you, that's going to frustrate you in the office. So it's best to identify what your issues are before you are put to the test during a time-sensitive work situation or a costly decision that needs to be made. Because in the end, your inability to work together or your inability to have teams that work together is costing you money. It is costing you money either through retention of great talent or just inefficient processes where there's redundancy and the work is happening in silos. So it's duplicated effort. So if you're trying to deduplicate or just reduce the number of inefficiencies, and I'm not trying to speak in a way that will make you say, well, I don't know if these things are happening. If two people have said or done the same exact work and you only need one person to do it, that is redundancy. If an email was sent and then you sent it again, that is redundancy. I myself struggle with this when I'm trying to hand off things to my admin. So we built new processes, TBD on how it's working. However, back to us, team building, rambling. So we're going to tell stories today about specific examples that you can learn from and take from and help to think about, how can I apply a team building activity for my team? It is now June. You have a few more months to do it during the summer if you want to be outdoors. And I will tell you more about some of the real immersive in-person team building experiences we focus on. The goal is to reconnect people, because after COVID, this hybrid working environment has been very, very difficult for people to reacclimate and connect in a way that doesn't feel stressful or frustrating. People have left jobs because of their lack of desire to be in the office talking to strangers about small talk. So it's a real concern and a hidden barrier to growth of your organization or success. So we're going to talk about building trust. We'll talk about what it feels like to work together, and not just to sit next to each other, but to actually work together. Because I've also seen scenarios where people have returned to the office and they don't want to talk to each other. They just sit next to each other all day and they never speak to each other. There's just like a hi and bye, or do you know where, and nothing really fruitful, and not small talk, but just like more productive talk. So I'll give you a case study of my most recent client who has disclosed that they don't mind me telling about this case study. But we took their executive C-suite team to do a team building activity and executive retreat offsite. We used a museum. The museum was creative, designed for play, and really the goal was to get them working together. So our work was to first understand what the pain points were, working with each individual leader to understand what their frustrations and challenges were. And then as an organization, we summarized the report for the CEO to review holistically what are the challenges that his leaders in the C-suite are facing. And the goal of this reporting is to be able to combine all the information so it's not evident who is having what challenge, but more so to identify the recurring themes. Communication was a recurring theme. Accountability was a recurring theme, and people wanted to be empowered. Now, here's where the challenge comes in. What does that look like in practice? How can I tell a CEO your team is struggling with accountability of one across the table with each other? So that's a trust issue. They're struggling with communication. They don't feel like what they're being or what they're saying is being heard. And then empowerment. They don't feel like they can make any decisions independently. So this is what the CEO started with. And our event was designed to address activities or at least share activities that would help build them personally, build them professionally, build the connection. And I could disclose all of that information, but that's not what the purpose of today is. That's what you would hire me for. So for today, I will tell you the outcomes. The outcomes were the team felt more connected to one another. Interestingly enough, they felt less connected to the CEO, but they realized they had each other to rely on. So how did we address the information that was disclosed that they were starting to feel less connected? That was a conversation with the CEO. That was a conversation with them as well. We applied everything DISC as an opportunity for them to learn more about communication styles and identify that they were more similar in their personalities than they were from the CEO. And the CEO was identifying more as a data-driven person based on everything DISC because that's what you used. In the end, the goal was to improve communication. So when they are using that rubric, they are able to communicate in a way that the CEO can understand and process. Do they choose to do that? Well, that's a different conversation. They now have the tools. But if we have tools and we don't use them, how does that improve? So with this particular thing, and this particular conference and actual retreat, which was active, we walked around, we engaged with some of the activities in the museum, we did exercises within the conference space, and it was really an opportunity to be more vulnerable, to laugh, to have clarity. And when you're looking at your team building activity, take people away from the table. You have to create space for reflection, not just action. So it's not just sitting down and doing the work, but it's how do I start to spark a creativity in the team? Now, for that group, that was just the first step of many, where the CEO needed to demonstrate his commitment to helping empower, helping improve communication, helping to hold people accountable. It is on him now to hold the line and to maintain and be consistent and demonstrate integrity in his word. And he may struggle as well because culture has not changed or shifted in one day. So part 2, we looked at how do we continue this learning? Well, it's a top-down effect. There's a conversation about how do you change an organization. It's hard to change it from the bottom up. You have to start from top down. the bottom. You can change how people engage with one another, but ultimately they're always going to follow the direction of the leaders, the attitude of the leaders, the energy of the leaders. So in this case, we're looking at how to improve collaborations across teams where organizations have inconsistent processes, but a real need to connect. This same organization then brought us on to do another activity, which was a little bit larger, but in this case, it was a little bit different because these offsite trainings were at a variety of facilities with just the team leaders. And in those spaces, we had them do breakout sessions. We had them engage with one another, a few interactive games. But the goal really was just to get them to talk to each other, to connect, because none of them had really worked together. And this build challenge, it really was looking at how can we help you see the similarities, but the opportunities to improve by collaborating and connecting with one another. And it was a messy, in my opinion, but messy in the sense that you don't realize how much of a disconnect there is between people until you put them on the room and you realize they are having the same issues. I recognize that, but growth isn't until they recognize, wow, you can solve my problem. You have the answer or understand the challenge I'm facing, and you're able to help me address it or come up with steps to solve it. And we could put our heads together and brainstorm on how to solve this. Maybe it's a paperwork problem, or maybe it's a system training gap, or maybe it's a handover from time on site to time off site, depending on what kind of workplace you have. Like if you're a foreman on the job site and you need to make sure that everyone is actively participating and following the policies and procedures that you put in place to keep things efficient, safe, and running well. How do you identify that communication gap? Sometimes you have to put your head together with other people or go to the leadership team and say, who's doing this well? Who can I speak with? How can I get more insight on how to do this better? So in that case, it starts off stressful, then there is laughter, and then by the end, there is a shared understanding and the intention of following up. Now, everyone feels good. They're on the high of the event. The real value and the question that you have to answer as a leader, how will we measure this after the event? Because the quantifiable metrics that matter are, did behavior change after that? And if it did, wonderful. But if it didn't, how can I continue to encourage change? Maybe I'm sending out a newsletter, because change management is also the increase of communication. It also includes increasing communication, whether it's through roadshows or newsletters or team meetings or town halls or just general check-ins, small group sessions. Finding ways to keep people aware of what's happening, make them excited and want to participate in that change. Maybe you're incentivizing the change. I always talk about my time at Simple Technologies, which became Motorola and then became Zebra Technologies. We had these awards called Pokeokes, where as individuals, we were encouraged to submit solutions, to collaborate with others, to improve processes internally within the organization. And we were rewarded when you could demonstrate how much you saved and how much time and effort or what was improved. So our goal is always to design an event that has an opportunity to measure. So not just designing the event, design the event and identify how do you want to check in with people. You can't always measure sentiment. You can't always measure hopefulness. You can't measure general well-being, but you can. You can survey people before we start. We do this. How are you feeling about 5 topics, 5 questions max? And at the end of the survey, at the end of the event, you can submit another survey or you can wait. You can check in a month later. Usually right after the event, we send a survey because we want to know immediately what they felt. And then we recommend that the leaders check in again. Check in again to make sure that we've addressed the main pain points, because it's possible that a leadership team missed it. It's possible that you are solving for the wrong problem. So when you do an event and activity, there's a great opportunity to check in to see, did the needle move, or did we create an opportunity to identify more ways to improve, more opportunities to improve? Because every time you make another improvement. You create an environment that people want to continue working in. All right. Another format that we used was for a virtual event. It was a virtual event because in this case, it was impossible to bring this team together. This particular company, or it's actually, this was more of like a group of leaders for a nonprofit organization, and they were volunteers. So it is a different type of model. It's a volunteer-led organization that has a need to do team building, and we were the facilitator of that. And in that case, we did a virtual scavenger hunt. This was towards the beginning of the pandemic, and people couldn't leave. So how do you create personalized experiences that allow people to connect? Our virtual scavenger hunt was more around 5 to 10 questions. I can't remember. I think it was 10 questions that were really designed to help people start to think critically, but also think about how to connect. And what we really saw was people wanted to express themselves. Imagine decorating your office and just kind of showcasing something that you're very proud of. Well, now you're in your home. And so in the scavenger hunt, you're finding things that are in your home that are reflective of you. Show me one of the items that you're most proud of, or show me something that is unique and specific to your role at work, or show me something, or find your favorite food. Anything to help get people thinking about who they are and how they want to show up, but how they want to showcase themselves to others. So in that case, it created a more connected, personalized experience, because as people were showcasing their item, others got to know them a little bit better. And while we try to keep our workplaces private, our personal and professional lives private, this era, that's really difficult to do. We are in an era where work and personal life overlap because of our devices and accessibility, social media. It's very unrealistic to expect people to not bring their whole self to work. In some cases, we don't. I can say that in many cases, I am able to separate golf from my personal life. I mean, in my professional life, but very few. Like, it's far and few between. However, in some cases, I do. I don't disclose to everyone I enjoy the game. I don't disclose to everyone that it's an important part of what I do, because in some cases, maybe I don't need to. And I think in this workplace, in this work environment, you have people that are discerning what they should share and what they shouldn't share. So we need to be honest about how we want people to show up. What do we value? Do we value transparency? Do we value authenticity? Do we value integrity? And if so, in what form, in what shape? How do you want people to show up in your workplace? Do you want people to live their mission? Do you want people to live the mission of the organization or live their personal values through the work that they're doing? Because if you're working with someone, you should trust them. You should be able to say that they are of their word. They will do their best. But if they are not going to do that, then you as a leader have to make the decision. How do you want to place them on teams, and how do you want to have them engage with one another? So when we look at the challenges that leaders face, as I come to a close, your teams have a challenge. They have an issue. It's an opportunity for you. If they're feeling disconnected, how do you connect them? If you're struggling to get people to get in, be in agreement on how to execute the mission, then that's a conversation. If you're struggling for just efficiencies, or it's just inefficient the way people are working, then that's a challenge. All of them can be addressed by starting with a team building event. But it's also about assessing the challenge first. So if you're sensing that your team feels disconnected, because they probably are, no tool will fix it better than a face-to-face experience that is intentional. And you can create that. You can create it with my help. You can create it independently, but you have to take the time and the effort to make sure that you're actually doing something that can move the needle or change. So let's not talk about reconnection. Let's actually lead it. And I have an event coming up. So I am sitting on the board of a nonprofit. We teach kids in the inner city golf. Segue Pivot, shameless plug. It is next month. It is in July. And here is the detail. You can scan that QR code, bring a team, connect, see the children. They'll be there in the morning. We'll be giving them a putting lesson. The lunch programming allows for us to just share concepts and share wisdom with the next generation. Our theme this year is leadership first, leaders first, because We teach leadership skills through golf. We are always showcasing how can we perform better together as a team. That is what we do at N18. In 18 holes of golf, you'll learn everything you need to know about a person, but our focus is leadership. We develop leaders. If you can't delegate, you're not a leader. You're not leading anyone. If you can't communicate, you're not a leader. If you don't listen, you're not a leader. You're something, but it's not a leader. Let's look at our event. Go to the website, visit. I sit on the board. I'm super proud of the work that gets done with this organization. And then I hope to see you next week, where we talk a little bit more about team building and close out this circle for the month. This is Any Given Monday.